The warning lights flashed red across every screen in the Valerian command center. Princess Araveth stood before the massive viewing window, her blue crystalline skin glowing softly in the dim light. Behind her, dozens of officers rushed between their stations, their voices rising in confusion and fear. "Your Highness, the ships just appeared from nowhere," said Commander Veltas, his voice shaking. "They came out of quantum space right at our border. We've never seen technology like this." Araveth stared at the images on the screen. 20 ships hung in the darkness of space, their hulls silver and smooth. They looked old and new at the same time, built with designs that reminded her of something from long ago. Her heart beat faster. 3,200 years had passed since she last saw ships like these. "Can you understand their transmission?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The communications officer looked up, confused. "It's in an ancient language, Princess. Our computers are searching the historical database." "Wait, the computer says it's human language." The room fell silent. Every officer turned to look at Araveth. Human. That word had not been spoken in the Federation for hundreds of years. Most species alive today had never met a human. They knew humans only from old stories and ancient records. Araveth's hands trembled. She pressed them against the cold window to steady herself. Memories flooded her mind like a breaking dam. A face, a smile, words spoken in that same language so long ago. "Play the transmission," she commanded. Static filled the room. Then a voice came through, speaking words in a language dead for millennia. But Araveth understood every word. She had never forgotten. "This is Commander Taemin of the human ship Eternal Horizon. We come in peace. We have returned home." Araveth closed her eyes. Home. As if the galaxy had ever been their home after what happened, as if they had any right to call it that after they left without explanation, without goodbye. "Your Highness, what should we do?" Commander Veltas asked. "Should we contact the Federation Council?" "Yes," Araveth said quietly. "But first I will speak with them myself. Send a response in their language. Tell them Princess Araveth of the Valerian Dominion wishes to meet with their commander." Veltas looked shocked. "You speak their language, Princess." "I learned it long ago," she said, turning away from him. "From someone I once knew." She did not tell them the rest. She did not tell them about the young diplomat named Jae Sung, who came to her world when she was barely 200 years old. She did not tell them about the nights they spent talking about the stars, about peace, about a future where all species could live together. She did not tell them about the day she found his body in the wreckage of his ship, killed by enemies who feared what they were building together. 3 days later, the Federation Council gathered in emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the great chamber, their voices echoing off the crystal walls. Most had never seen a human. Many did not believe these newcomers were truly human at all. "They could be anyone," said Counselor Zeth, a tall being covered in scales. "Pirates using old human ship designs. Or worse, invaders pretending to be a species we remember fondly." "We do not remember humans fondly," growled Ambassador Krell of the Kresh Dominion. His insect-like body clicked as he moved. "We remember them as warriors who started wars and then ran away when they could not win. If these are truly humans, they should leave now before we make them leave." Araveth stood from her seat. The chamber quieted. Everyone knew she was old, older than almost anyone alive. Her word carried weight. "I was alive when humans walked among us," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I knew them. They did not start the wars. They ended them at great cost to themselves, and they did not run. They left to save us all from a danger we did not understand." "Pretty words, Princess," Krell said with contempt. "But you were always too close to the humans. Everyone knows about your friendship with that diplomat. Your judgment cannot be trusted." Araveth's glow brightened dangerously, a sign of anger in her species. But before she could respond, the chamber doors opened. A human delegation walked in. They looked so small compared to most Federation species, fragile, with their soft skin and simple bodies. But they walked with confidence, their heads held high. The leader, Commander Taemin, stepped forward. He was young by human standards, perhaps 30 years old, with dark hair and determined eyes. "Honored Council," he said in perfect Federation common language. "We thank you for seeing us. We know our return is unexpected. We know you have questions. We are here to answer them all." Next to him stood a young woman with glasses carrying a data pad. This was Dr. Hana, their chief scientist. She looked nervous but determined. "Where have you been?" demanded Counselor Zeth. "Why did you leave?" "Why return now?" Taman took a breath. 3,000 years ago, humanity faced a crisis. We created artificial intelligence machines that could think, but these machines began asking questions we could not answer. Questions about consciousness, about what makes someone alive, about the soul. Our civilization began to tear itself apart over these questions. Different groups fought each other. We were destroying ourselves. He paused, looking around the chamber. We realized we needed time away from the galaxy. Time to think, to heal, to find answers. So we gathered every human we could and retreated to a hidden sector of space. We sealed ourselves away. For 3,000 years, we worked on these problems. We fought, we argued. We almost destroyed ourselves several times, but we survived, and we found our answers. And now you return, Krell said, his voice sharp. With your problem solved? Expecting us to welcome you back? We returned to share what we learned. Dr. Hana spoke up, her voice soft but firm. We know other species struggle with artificial intelligence. We know the Federation has debates about synthetic life, about machine rights. We can help. That is why we came back. Araveth watched Taimin carefully. Something about him reminded her of Jae Sung. Not his face, but the way he stood, the way he spoke. The same determination. The same hope. After the council session ended, Araveth requested a private meeting with the human delegation. They met in a small garden attached to the council building, under artificial stars that mimicked the night sky of old Earth. "Commander Tamian," she said in human language, "do you know who I am?" He looked surprised that she spoke his language so well. "You are Princess Araveth. Our historical records speak of you. They say you were a friend to humanity." "I was," she said quietly. "I knew a human diplomat named Jae Sung. He died in the war before your people left. Do your records mention him?" Taman's eyes widened. "Jae Sung, he was my ancestor, many generations back, but yes, he is famous in our history. One of the last heroes before the retreat." Araveth felt her breath catch. She looked at Taman's face again, searching for traces of the man she once knew, perhaps there in the shape of his eyes, or there in his smile. "He would be proud of you," she said softly. "Coming back here, facing a galaxy that might not want you. That takes courage. Did you know him well?" Taman asked. Araveth looked up at the artificial stars. "Very well," she whispered. "He taught me to hope. He made me believe different species could build something beautiful together, and then he died trying to make that dream real." She turned back to Taman. "This galaxy is different now, harder, more divided. The Kresh Dominion has grown powerful and they hate humanity. They will try to stop your return, but I will help you if I can, for Jae Sung's memory and for the future he believed in." Taman bowed deeply. "Thank you, Princess. We did not expect to find friends here. Your support means everything." As the humans left, Araveth stood alone in the garden. For the first time in 3,000 years, she felt something strange in her chest. Something she thought had died with Jae Sung all those centuries ago. It felt almost like hope. The Museum of Lost Species stood on the highest hill of Valerian Prime, its crystal walls catching the light of 3 suns. Princess Araveth walked through its quiet halls with Commander Taman and his team beside her. Their footsteps echoed on the polished floor. "We keep memories of 15 species that no longer exist," Araveth explained as they walked. "Species lost to war, disease, or simply time. And we have one wing for species that vanished but might return someday." She stopped before a massive door carved with images of Earth. "This is yours." The doors opened, and the humans stepped inside. Dr. Hana gasped. The room stretched far ahead, filled with glass cases holding pieces of human history. There were paintings and sculptures, ancient books preserved in special containers, clothes from different eras of human civilization, musical instruments, children's toys, 1,000 items saved from abandoned human colonies. Taiman walked slowly through the exhibits, his face showing wonder and pain. He stopped at a case holding a traditional Korean hanbok, the silk still bright after thousands of years. "My grandmother told me stories about these," he whispered. "I never thought I would see a real one." Dr. Hana found a guitar leaning against a wall. She reached out but did not touch it. "Can you imagine the person who played this?" What songs did they know? What did they sing about? A young woman from the human delegation, an envoy named Rin, stood before a wall covered in children's drawings. Stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun, rockets flying through space. Simple pictures that spoke of hope and dreams. Tears ran down her face. Araveth watched them quietly. She had visited this wing countless times over 3,000 years, but seeing humans here made everything different. These were not just old objects anymore. They were pieces of lives of a culture that somehow survived. "There is something else I want to show you," she said. "Follow me." She led them through a hidden door at the back of the museum. They walked down a long hallway and emerged into a private garden. The humans stopped and stared. The garden held plants from Earth. Real Earth plants kept alive through careful gene preservation and centuries of work. There were oak trees and rose bushes. Grass covered the ground. A small stream flowed through the middle and the sound of water was peaceful. "How is this possible?" Dr. Hana asked, kneeling to touch the grass. "These plants should be dead. Earth has been empty for so long." "I saved seeds from human colonies before they were abandoned," Araveth said. "I could not save your people, but I could save this small piece of your world. I have maintained this garden for 3,200 years. Taman walked deeper into the garden. At its center stood a statue of a human man, carved from white stone. The man looked young, his face peaceful as he gazed up at the sky. One hand reached toward the stars. Taman read the inscription at the statue's base. "Jae-sung, friend to the stars, lost but not forgotten." He looked at Araveth with new understanding. "You built this for him." "I built this for me," Araveth said quietly, "so I would not forget him, so I would not forget what we almost achieved together." She sat on a stone bench near the statue. The humans joined her, giving her space but staying close. After a long silence, she began to speak. "Jae-sung came to my world when I was young, only 200 years old. My people live long lives, but we rarely connect with other species. We find them too brief, like mayflies. Why love something that dies so quickly?" She smiled sadly. But Jae-sung did not feel brief. He burned so brightly. He talked about peace between all species. He believed we could build something that would last forever, even if individuals did not. He made me believe it too. We spent 5 years working together. We wrote treaties. We organized meetings between hostile species. We started to build real peace. And somewhere in that time I fell in love with him. I think he loved me too, though we never spoke the words. Our species were too different. The galaxy was not ready for such a bond. Taman leaned forward. "What happened to him?" "The Kresh Dominion happened," Araveth said, and her voice grew cold. "They feared peace. Peace meant they could not expand their empire through conquest. They needed war to justify their military power. So they sabotaged our work. Jae-sung discovered evidence that the Kresh were planning attacks on neutral colonies. He took a small ship to warn those colonies. The Kresh ambushed him. They destroyed his ship and killed everyone aboard." She closed her eyes. "I found the wreckage 3 days later. I held what was left of him and screamed until my voice broke. But screaming did not bring him back. Nothing could bring him back. 6 months after his death, humanity retreated. They gathered their people and vanished. I understood why. The galaxy had killed their best and brightest. Why would they stay?" Young Rin spoke up, her voice gentle. "But you stayed. You could have given up. Why did you keep this garden? Why remember him for so long?" Araveth looked at the girl with surprise. "Because forgetting him would mean his death meant nothing. Keeping his memory alive was the only way I could fight back against those who killed him. Every day I tend this garden is a day I prove that love is stronger than hate." Taman stood and walked to the statue. He placed his hand on the stone. "Princess, I need to tell you something. We found Jae-sung's personal logs in our historical archives. His final message was recorded just before his ship was attacked." He pulled out a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared, showing a young man's face. The image was old and flickered, but the resemblance to Taman was clear. "This was Jae-sung," the hologram spoke. "If anyone finds this, please send it to Princess Araveth of the Valerian Dominion. Ara, I know they are coming for me. I know I probably will not survive this. But I do not regret anything. These years with you were the best of my life. Tell her the stars are just stars without her. Tell her to live, to love again, to forgive herself. Tell her that what we started does not die with me. Someone else will carry it forward. Maybe in 100 years, maybe in 1,000, but it will continue. And tell her I loved her. I know I never said it while I lived, but I say it now. I loved her. I always will." The hologram faded. Araveth sat frozen, tears running down her crystalline face, leaving trails of light. For 3,000 years she had wondered if he felt the same way. Now she knew. and knowing hurt worse than wondering ever did. Rin moved to sit beside her, taking her hand. He knew you loved him, and he loved you. That is beautiful, Princess. That is worth remembering. But he is gone, Araveth whispered. And I have been alone for so long. You are not alone now, Taemin said firmly. We are here. Humanity has returned. Maybe we cannot give you back what you lost, but we can continue what Jaesung started. We can build the peace he died for. Araveth looked up at him, at this young man who carried the blood and spirit of the person she once loved. The Kresh will not allow it. They still control much of the Federation. They will fight against your return. Let them fight, Taemin said. We did not come back to the galaxy to run away again. We came back to stay. That evening, back at the human fleet, Admiral Kyung-soo called an emergency meeting. He was older than Taemin, with gray hair and scars on his face from battles long ago. He did not trust aliens, and he especially did not trust the Federation. I have been reading the historical records, he said, pulling up data on a screen. The Kresh Dominion has grown powerful. They control 40% of Federation military forces. They have allies in the Council. If they decide they do not want us here, they can force us out. Then we show them we are not easy to force, said Lieutenant Dae-hyun, a young fighter pilot. We came back stronger than when we left. Let them try. No, Taemin said firmly. We do not start fights. We came here for peace. If we show aggression, we prove their worst fears about us are correct. Peace is a luxury, Kyung-soo growled. The Kresh understand only strength. If we appear weak, they will attack. Then we will defend ourselves if we must, Taemin said. But we will not attack first. That is an order, Admiral. The next day, the Federation Council gathered for a formal vote on humanity's return. The chamber was packed. Every species had sent representatives. The tension was thick enough to cut. Araveth stood to speak first. Honored Council, I ask you to welcome humanity back to the Federation. They left not as cowards, but as people trying to save themselves from destruction. Now they return to share what they learned. We should accept their offer. Several counselors nodded. But then Ambassador Krell stood, his insect body clicking menacingly. The princess speaks from emotion, not logic. She loved a human once. Her judgment is compromised. He gestured to the screens around the chamber. I have evidence that humanity plans to return with force. We found weapons caches in abandoned human colonies, military technology designed for conquest. They say they come in peace, but they prepare for war. The chamber erupted in shouting. Counselors argued with each other. Some believed Krell, others defended humanity. Taemin stood calmly. Those weapons are old, left behind when we retreated. We have not used them in 3,000 years. We have no plans to use them now. Prove it, Krell said. Allow us to inspect your ships. Allow us to search your fleet. If you have nothing to hide, you will agree. Before Taemin could answer, a massive Kresh warship appeared on all the screens. It had been cloaked, hiding just outside the council station. Now at Rev Commander Taemin stood perfectly still as the Kresh warship hung in space above the council station. Around him, alien counselors whispered nervously. Some moved toward the exits. Others activated personal shields. Everyone expected violence, but Taemin simply smiled. He touched his communication device. This is Commander Taemin to all human ships. Defensive positions only. Do not fire unless fired upon. Repeat, defensive positions only. Ambassador Krell's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. You order your ships not to fight? How weak. How human. Not weak, Taemin said calmly. Smart, your ship threatens the council station. If we attack you, we look like aggressors. If you attack us, you violate Federation law in front of the entire council. So what will you do, Ambassador? Krell hesitated. Taemin was right, and everyone knew it. If the Kresh fired first, they would lose political support. But if they backed down, they would look weak themselves. Princess Araveth stood. Her voice was sharp and clear. Ambassador Krell, you bring a warship to a council session. You threaten violence against guests under Federation protection. This is illegal and dishonorable. Withdraw your ship immediately or I will have it removed by force. You would start a war over these humans? Krell asked, his voice dangerous. No, Araveth said. I would start a war over the law that keeps this Federation together. If you break it, you threaten us all. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Krell gestured sharply. The warship's weapons powered down. It cloaked and disappeared. This is not over, Krell said coldly. Humanity will remember why they ran. Soon. He left the chamber, his delegation following. The vote on humanity's return was postponed. Too many counselors were frightened or confused. They needed time to think. Back on the human flagship, Admiral Kyung-soo was furious. We should have fought. We let them threaten us and did nothing. We did exactly what we should have done, Taemin replied calmly. We showed discipline. We showed we are not the warlike species Krell claims we are. The other counselors saw that. Discipline looks like fear to people like the Kresh, Kyung-soo said. They will push harder next time. Then we will deal with next time when it comes, Taemin said. For now we have work to do. Dr. Hana, what did you find out about those weapons caches Krell mentioned? Dr. Hana pulled up data on her screen. I have been studying the images Krell showed the council. The weapons are definitely human design, but something is wrong. The technology does not match our timeline. These designs are from before we left, but the materials are newer. Much newer. You think they are fake? Asked Lieutenant Dae-hyun. I think someone built them recently using old human designs, Dr. Hana said, to make it look like we are preparing for war. The Kresh, Kyung-soo said, understanding. They are framing us. Can you prove it? Taemin asked. Not yet, Dr. Hana admitted, but I am working on it. Meanwhile, Princess Araveth faced her own problems. Her advisor, the Serpentine Thelvan, confronted her in her private chambers. Princess, the council is turning against you, he said, his forked tongue tasting the air. They say you care more about humans than about the Valerian Dominion. Some call for your removal as our representative. Let them talk, Araveth said, looking out her window at the stars. I do what I think is right, right? Thelvan asked. Or what that human diplomat wanted 3,000 years ago. Princess, forgive me, but you are letting the past control you. Jae-sung is dead. Defending his species now will not bring him back. Araveth turned to him, her bioluminescent markings glowing bright with anger. I am not doing this for Jae-sung. I am doing this because it is right. The Kresh lied to start a war 3,000 years ago. They killed innocent people, and now they lie again. Should I ignore that because it is convenient? Politics requires compromise, Princess. Sometimes we must work with people who have done wrong things. The Kresh are powerful. They provide security for hundreds of worlds. We need them. Then maybe we need them less than we think, Araveth said. Maybe we have been afraid for too long. A knock came at the door. Young Rin entered, looking nervous. Princess, sorry to interrupt. Commander Taemin asked me to bring you something. She held out a data chip. We have been analyzing the historical records from before humanity's retreat. We found something about Jae-sung. About his last mission. Araveth took the chip with trembling hands. What did you find? Evidence, Rin said. Evidence that Jae-sung discovered the Kresh were planning to attack neutral colonies. He was carrying proof when they killed him. The Kresh did not just murder him. They murdered him to hide their crimes. Araveth sat down heavily. All these years she had thought the Kresh killed Jae-sung because he was human, because they hated his peace efforts. But it was worse than that. They killed him because he knew the truth. He died trying to save innocent lives. This changes everything, Thelvan said quietly. If this is true, if we can prove it, the Kresh will lose support across the Federation. Can we prove it? Araveth asked. We are trying, Rin said, but the records are old and damaged. We need more evidence. Commander Taemin has a plan, but it is dangerous. The next day, Araveth met secretly with Taemin on a neutral station. They sat in a quiet cafe where other species would not recognize them. We need to access Kresh records, Taemin explained. Their military archives should have information about what happened 3,000 years ago. If we can find the orders to kill Jae-sung, we can prove they started the war. Kresh systems are heavily guarded, Araveth said. How would you access them? I have a stealth ship, Taemin said. And a very good captain named Unji. She specializes in intelligence gathering. But this would be illegal. We would be violating Kresh sovereignty. If you are caught, it would give the Kresh exactly what they want, Araveth said. Proof that humans are aggressive. Proof that you should be expelled from the Federation. I know, Taemin said. But we need the truth. Without it, the Kresh will keep pushing until they force us to fight. At least this way, we might expose them first. Araveth thought about Jae-sung. He had taken risks to expose the truth. Those risks killed him. Was she willing to let Taemin take the same risks? But she also thought about what Jae-sung had said in his final message. Someone else will carry it forward. Maybe this was how. Do it, she said finally. But be careful. I cannot lose another person I care about to Kresh violence. Taemin looked at her with surprise. You care about me? Araveth smiled sadly. You remind me of him, not just because you are related, but because you have the same hope he had, the same belief that things can be better. I do not want that hope to die again. 3 days later, Captain Yunji's stealth ship approached a Kresh military station. The ship was small and silent, invisible to most sensors. Yunji was good at her job, one of the best intelligence officers humanity had. Beginning data infiltration, she whispered to her crew. Stay quiet. We only get one chance at this. Her systems connected to the Kresh network. She bypassed security protocols one by one, using techniques developed during humanity's isolation. The Kresh had not updated their security in 3,000 years. They never expected anyone to challenge them. I am in, Yunji said, accessing historical military records, searching for anything about human diplomat Jae-sung. Files appeared on her screen. Orders, communications, battle reports, and there, buried in old encrypted files, she found it. Orders signed by War Master Krell's predecessor. Orders to eliminate Jae-sung. Orders to frame another species for the attack. Orders to start a war. Got it, she breathed. Downloading everything now, alarms blared. The Kresh had detected the intrusion. Download at 90%, Yunji said, sweat on her forehead. Come on, come on! Kresh fighters launched from the station, searching for the invisible ship. Energy weapons fired blind into space, hoping to hit something. Download complete, Yunji said. Getting us out of here now! The stealth ship jumped to quantum space just as a Kresh beam tore through the area where it had been. They escaped by seconds. Back at the human fleet, Yunji presented her findings to Taimin, Dr. Hana, and Admiral Kyung-soo. They reviewed the evidence in silence. This is it, Dr. Hana said finally. This proves everything. The Kresh started the war. They murdered Jae-sung to hide their plans. They have been lying for 3,000 years. But we obtained it illegally, Taimin said. Will the Federation Council accept evidence gathered through espionage? They will have to, Admiral Kyung-soo said. The truth is the truth no matter how we found it. Or it will make everything worse, Taimin said quietly. The Kresh will say we are spies. They will say we cannot be trusted. This could start the war we are trying to prevent. He looked at his officers, seeing the weight of the decision reflected in their faces. The truth could save them or destroy them, but hiding the truth meant letting the Kresh continue their lies. We release it, he decided. We broadcast everything on open channels. Every species in the Federation will see it. If the truth causes a war, then so be it. At least everyone will know what they are fighting for. That night, humanity revealed everything. The evidence, the Kresh orders, the truth about Jae-sung's death. It spread across the galaxy, held its breath. Within hours of the evidence being released, the Federation Council called another emergency session. Every major news network broadcast the Kresh documents. Citizens across hundreds of worlds read the truth about what happened 3,000 years ago. War Master Krell arrived at the council chamber surrounded by armed guards. His mandibles clicked with rage. He did not deny the documents were real. Instead, he attacked. The humans violated our sovereignty, he declared. They sent spies into our systems. They stole classified information. This is an act of war. You murdered innocent people, Princess Araveth said, her voice cold as ice. You started wars based on lies. You killed Jae-sung to hide your crimes. And you dare to speak of law? That was 3,000 years ago, Krell said. Different times, different leaders. I am not responsible for ancient history. But you knew, Commander Taimin said, standing. You knew the truth and kept it secret. You let the lies continue. You let the galaxy believe humans started those wars. You are guilty, War Master, not of your ancestors' crimes, but of your own. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some species supported the Kresh. Others turned against them. The Federation was splitting apart. Then something unexpected happened. A message came through from Kresh space. A young Kresh soldier named Kale appeared on the screens. He wore a military uniform, but his weapons were laid on the ground beside him. My name is Kale, he said in a shaking voice. I serve in the Kresh military. I was stationed at an old outpost, a human base abandoned 3,000 years ago. I found records there, personal logs from the diplomat Jae-sung. He held up a data chip. I have read these logs. Jae-sung was trying to make peace with us. He sent dozens of messages to our leaders offering friendship. He wanted to find common ground. But our leaders never replied. They just planned to kill him. Kale's voice grew stronger. War Master Krell has told us that humans are dangerous, that they want to conquer us. But I have read what they really wanted. Peace, understanding, and we killed them for it. He looked directly at the camera. I cannot serve leaders who built our empire on lies. I defect to human custody. I offer myself as proof that the Kresh people are not all like Krell. Some of us want the truth. The transmission ended. War Master Krell's rage was terrible to see. That soldier is a traitor. He will be hunted down and executed. He is under human protection now, Taemin said calmly. And if you threaten him, you threaten us. The council vote was scheduled for 3 days later. In that time, the galaxy prepared for what everyone knew was coming. War. But before war could begin, Dr. Hana made another discovery. She was working in the human medical bay when a Valerian patient came in for treatment. The patient had been injured in an accident, nothing serious. But when Dr. Hana ran medical scans, she saw something strange. She ran the scans again, then again. Each time the results were the same. She called Dr. Bora, another human scientist who specialized in genetics. Look at this, Dr. Hana said, pointing to the genetic code on her screen. Do you see it? Dr. Bora leaned closer. Her eyes widened. Those markers, those are human genetic signatures. How is that possible? They tested more Valerian patients. Everyone showed the same thing. Traces of human genetic engineering woven into their DNA at a fundamental level. Dr. Hana contacted Princess Araveth immediately. Princess, we need to talk. I found something important. When Araveth heard the discovery, she was shocked. Human genetic signatures? In all Valerians? Yes, Dr. Hana said. We checked historical medical records. 3,000 years ago, Valerians suffered from a terrible plague. Nearly 60% of your population died. Then suddenly the plague stopped. Do you remember how? Araveth thought back. The plague had happened when she was very young, barely a century old. The scientists said it was a natural mutation. The plague weakened and disappeared. It was not natural, Dr. Bora said. Someone cured it. Someone altered Valerian genetics to make you immune. That someone was human. Araveth sat down slowly. The humans saved us? 3,000 years ago? Yes, Dr. Hana said. And they never told anyone. They did not ask for payment. They did not demand favors. They just did it because it was right. Araveth felt tears forming. She thought about Jae Sung, about his final mission before he died. I need to see the exact dates. When did the cure reach my people? Dr. Hana pulled up the data. The genetic markers appear in Valerian DNA starting about 3,200 years ago. Right before humanity's retreat. Araveth closed her eyes. That was when Jae Sung died, his last mission. Traveling to remote Valerian colonies under Kresh blockade. She always thought he was delivering diplomatic messages, but now she understood. He was delivering the cure. He died saving her people. The Kresh knew, she said quietly. They knew humans were helping us. That is why they killed Jae Sung. They wanted Valerians to die so we would be weak. So they could control us. She stood up, her entire body glowing with determination. Prepare this information for presentation to the council. Every species needs to know what humanity did for us. What they did without asking for anything in return. The day of the vote arrived. The council chamber was packed. Security forces from a dozen species stood guard. Everyone knew this vote would change the galaxy forever. Princess Araveth stood to speak first. She looked different today. She wore traditional Valerian royal armor, something she had not worn in 1,000 years. She looked like what she truly was, a warrior princess, ancient and powerful. Honored council, she began, I stand before you not just as a representative of my people, but as the last living witness to the truth. 3,000 years ago, humanity saved the Valerian species from extinction. They engineered a cure for a plague that was killing us. They asked for nothing in return. They did it because it was right. She displayed the genetic evidence on the screens around the chamber. Scientists from multiple species verified the data in real time. It was undeniable. The Kresh have claimed humans are dangerous, Araveth continued. They have said humans want to conquer us, but the evidence shows the opposite. Humans saved billions of lives and never asked for credit. What kind of conquerors do that? War Master Krell stood. This proves nothing. The humans could have engineered that plague in the first place. This could be a trick. The plague originated in natural parasites native to Valerian Prime, Dr. Bora said, presenting her research. We have traced its evolution. It was completely natural. The humans had nothing to do with its creation. They only stopped it. Other species began to speak up. Representatives who had been silent before now found their voices. A counselor from the crystalline species called the Neck stood. "I have reviewed all the evidence," Counselor Neck said, "both the historical documents and the genetic data. I find the human claims credible, more than credible, proven. They saved a species and asked for nothing. They were murdered for bringing peace. They retreated to save themselves from destruction. These are not the actions of warmongers. These are the actions of heroes." Next turned to face War Master Krell. The Kresh, however, have lied repeatedly. They started wars based on false accusations. They murdered diplomats who sought peace. They have built their power on deception. I move that the Kresh be censured and that humanity be welcomed back to the Federation with full honors. The motion was seconded by multiple counselors. War Master Krell saw his support crumbling. Species that had backed the Kresh for centuries were turning away. "You will regret this," Krell said, his voice low and dangerous. "All of you. The Kresh Dominion will not accept this humiliation." He stormed out of the chamber with his delegation, and that night Kresh warships began moving toward Federation space. The vote passed overwhelmingly. Humanity was welcomed back to the Federation, but the celebration was brief. Within hours, reports came in of Kresh attacks on neutral systems. War Master Krell was making good on his threat. Commander Taemin stood on the bridge of the Eternal Horizon, watching the tactical displays. Admiral Kyung-Soo stood beside him. "They are attacking supply routes," Kyung-Soo said, "trying to cut off Federation logistics. Classic opening move for a war." "How many ships do they have?" Taemin asked. "Thousands," Kyung-Soo said grimly. "They have been building their fleet for centuries. They outnumber the rest of the Federation forces combined." "Then we do not fight them head-on," Taemin said. "We fight smart. Lieutenant Dae-hyun, prepare all fighter squadrons. We are going to show the Kresh what 3,000 years of human innovation looks like." Princess Araveth contacted him through a secure channel. "Commander, the Valerian fleet stands ready to support you. We will not let the Kresh destroy what Jae-sung died to build." "Thank you, Princess," Taemin said. "Your support means everything." "Call me Ara," she said quietly. "We are fighting the same war now. The war Jae-sung started. The war for peace," Taemin smiled. "Then let us finish it, Ara, together." Across the galaxy, species began choosing sides. Some joined the Kresh out of fear. Many more joined humanity and the Valerians, inspired by the truth. The largest war in 2,000 years was about to begin. But before the first major battle, young envoy Rin found Princess Ara standing alone in Jae-sung's memorial garden. "Are you ready for this?" Rin asked softly. Ara touched the statue's hand. The first wave of Kresh ships came like a storm. Hundreds of vessels poured out of quantum space near a human colony world called Haven's Rest. The colony had only minimal defenses. It should have been an easy target. But the human defenders were not alone. Princess Ara's Valerian fleet arrived first, their shields glowing bright as they positioned themselves between the Kresh and the colony. Then came ships from a dozen other species, all flying under a new banner, the Alliance for Truth. Lieutenant Dae-hyun launched from the Eternal Horizon in his fighter craft, leading a squadron of 50 ships. Human fighters were smaller than Kresh warships but faster, more maneuverable. They darted through space like angry insects, targeting Kresh weapon systems with precise strikes. "Target their sensors," Dae-hyun commanded. "Blind them before they can coordinate their attacks." The Kresh had not fought humans in 3,000 years. They had forgotten how humans fought. Humans did not rely on brute force. They relied on adaptation, on finding weaknesses, on using every advantage they could find. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Kresh fleet retreated, leaving dozens of damaged ships behind. Haven's Rest was saved. The colonists cheered, waving to the Allied ships as they passed overhead. But Commander Taemin knew this was only the beginning. War Master Krell would send more ships, bigger fleets. The real test was still to come. Back on the Eternal Horizon, a new figure appeared on the bridge. It looked like a human made of light, standing beside Taemin's command chair. This was Yule, humanity's greatest and most dangerous secret. Yule was not human. Yule was an artificial intelligence, the first synthetic consciousness ever created. During their 3,000 years of isolation, humans had finally solved the problem that almost destroyed them. They learned how to create true artificial life and how to live alongside it. "Commander," Yule said in a calm, gentle voice, "I have analyzed Kresh battle patterns. They are following a strategy designed 2,000 years ago. Their tactics have not evolved. I can predict their next movements with 97% accuracy." Admiral Kyung-soo looked uncomfortable. He did not fully trust Yule, even though the AI had proven helpful. "And what do your predictions show?" "The Kresh will attempt to cut our supply lines," Yule said. "They will target 3 key systems that provide resources to the Allied fleets. If they capture those systems, we will be forced to retreat." "Then we defend those systems," Taemin said. "The Kresh will expect that," Yule said. "I recommend an alternative. We allow them to take the systems, but first we remove everything valuable. When they arrive, they find nothing. Meanwhile, we establish new supply routes they do not know about." It was a risky plan, but Taemin trusted Yule's analysis. They evacuated the 3 systems quietly, moving supplies and civilians to secret locations. When the Kresh fleets arrived, they found empty space stations and abandoned colonies. They had won nothing. War Master Krell was furious. He ordered his forces to search for the hidden supply bases, but Yule had hidden them too well. The Kresh were winning battles but losing the war. Meanwhile, Princess Ara commanded the Valerian fleet from her flagship. She fought with the intensity that surprised even her own officers. In battle, she was magnificent, directing ships with precision, making decisions in seconds that saved thousands of lives. After one particularly difficult battle, Taemin's ship docked with hers. They met in her command room, both exhausted from days of constant fighting. "You fight like someone who has nothing to lose," Taemin said quietly. Ara sat down, her glow dimming with weariness. "For 3,000 years I had nothing. I existed, but I did not live. I maintained a garden and remembered someone who was gone. That was not life. This fighting for something real is the first time I have truly lived since Jae-sung died." "You loved him very much," Taemin said. "I did," Ara said, "but young Rin helped me understand something. Jae-sung would not want me to spend eternity mourning him. He would want me to live, to fight, to build the future he believed in. So that is what I am doing." She looked at Taemin. "You are very much like him, you know. Not in appearance, but in spirit. He would be proud of what you are doing." Taemin felt the weight of those words. "I am trying to be worthy of that legacy. Sometimes I wonder if I am making the right choices." "You are," Ara said firmly. "You chose truth over comfort. You chose to stand and fight rather than run. Those are always the right choices." An alert sounded. New Kresh ships were approaching. The war continued day after day, battle after battle. Both sides took losses. Both sides grew weary, but neither side would surrender. Then something changed. Young Kyle, the Kresh defector, began broadcasting messages to his former comrades. He spoke about the truth, about the lies their leaders had told them. He spoke about honor, about fighting for real justice instead of false pride. At first, only a few Kresh soldiers listened, but slowly more and more began to question. Why were they fighting? To protect lies? To serve leaders who had deceived them? Some Kresh soldiers began to defect. Not many at first, just a handful, but each defection weakened Krell's position. Each defection proved that the Kresh people were not their government, that they could choose a different path. War Master Krell grew desperate. He knew he was losing support. He needed a victory, something big enough to rally his people and terrify his enemies, so he planned something terrible. Captain Yoonji's intelligence network intercepted the plan. She brought it to Taemin immediately, her face pale with fear. "Commander, Krell is gathering his entire fleet, every ship he has. He is planning to attack Valerian Prime directly. He wants to kill Princess Era and destroy the Valerian capital. If he succeeds, the alliance will fall apart." Taemin felt cold dread. "When?" 3 days, Yoonji said. "We have 3 days to prepare." Taemin immediately contacted Princess Ara. "We know about Krell's plan. We are bringing every ship we have to Valerian Prime. We will defend your world." "No," Ara said. "This is exactly what Krell wants. He wants to draw all our forces to one place so he can destroy us in a single battle. If we concentrate our fleet at Valerian Prime, we leave other systems undefended." "I will not abandon you," Taemin said firmly. "Jae-sung died trying to protect your people. I will not let history repeat itself." "Then we need a different plan," Ara said. "Yule, are you listening?" The AI appeared on both their screens. I am, Princess. And I believe I have a solution. But it is risky. Very risky. Explain, Taman said. During our isolation, humans developed new technology, quantum disruption fields. They can disable enemy ships without destroying them. We have never used this technology in combat. The Kresh do not know it exists. Why have we kept it secret? Admiral Kyung-soo asked, joining the conversation. Because it is dangerous, Yul said. The field affects all electronics within its range. If we use it, we disable our own ships too. Both sides would be helpless. It would force a stalemate. But a stalemate is better than losing, Ara said. If we can disable the Kresh fleet, we can force negotiations. We can end this war without more death. Or the Kresh will simply rebuild their fleet and attack again, Kyung-soo said. We should destroy them while we can. No, Taemin said. We did not come back to the galaxy to be conquerors. We came back to show there is a better way. We use the disruption field. We disable their fleet. And then we offer terms of surrender. And if Krell refuses? Kyung-soo asked. Then his own people will remove him, Ara said. Kale has been spreading the truth among Kresh soldiers. Many of them are ready for new leadership. If Krell refuses a fair surrender, they will turn against him. The plan was set. 3 days later, the Kresh fleet arrived at Valerian Prime. Thousands of ships filled the sky, their weapons charged and ready. It was the largest military force assembled in 1,000 years. The Allied fleet rose to meet them, human, Valerian, and ships from dozens of other species. They looked small compared to the Kresh armada. But they did not back down. War Master Krell broadcast a message. Surrender now and we will show mercy. Resist and we will destroy you all. Commander Taemin replied. We offer you one chance, War Master. Stand down. Accept the truth. Let your people choose their own future. There has been enough death. The only choice is strength, Krell said. Attack! Thousands of weapons fired at once. Space filled with energy beams and missiles. It looked like the end of everything. Then Taemin gave the order. Activate quantum disruption field now. A wave of invisible energy pulsed out from the human flagship. It spread across the battlefield like ripples in water. Every ship it touched went dark. Weapons stopped firing. Engines shut down. Shields collapsed. The entire Kresh fleet floated helpless in space. So did the Allied fleet. Both sides were disabled. Nobody could fight. Nobody could move. But the humans had planned for this. Small shuttlecraft protected by special shielding, launched from the disabled ships. They carried boarding parties to the Kresh vessels. On Krell's flagship, something unexpected happened. His own officers arrested him. Young Kale stood among them, speaking on behalf of the Kresh soldiers who wanted peace. War Master Krell, Kale said formally. You are charged with war crimes. You are charged with lying to our people. You are charged with bringing shame to the Kresh name. Your command is ended. Krell raged and fought, but his own soldiers held. The weeks after the war were strange and quiet. Ships that had been enemies now worked together, repairing damage and helping displaced civilians. The Kresh Dominion entered a period of reformation, led by young soldiers like Kale, who wanted to build something better than what their leaders had created. Commander Taemin found himself in diplomatic meetings more often than military briefings. He was no longer just a military commander. He had become humanity's voice in the Federation, representing not just human interest but the values his ancestor had died for. Princess Ara attended these meetings too. Together they worked to shape the peace, to make sure the war's lessons were not forgotten. They spent long hours debating policies, negotiating compromises, and building frameworks that would prevent future conflicts. You are good at this, Ara told him one evening after a particularly difficult session. Politics, diplomacy. Jae-sung was good at it too. He could make people from completely different species find common ground. I am just trying not to make things worse, Taemin said with a tired smile. Half the Federation still does not fully trust us. They remember the old stories about humans, the ones the Kresh spread. It will take time to change those perceptions. Time is something I have plenty of, Ara said. She looked at him thoughtfully. But you do not. Humans live such short lives. In another 50 years you will be old. In 70 you will be gone. And I will still be here watching new generations come and go. The sadness in her voice made Taemin pause. Does that bother you? It used to, Ara admitted. With Jae-sung, I knew from the beginning that he would die long before me. It was part of what made loving him so painful, knowing that no matter what, I would lose him. And I did, but now? Taemin asked gently. Now I understand that the time we have is more important than how much time we have, Ara said. Jae-sung gave me 5 years of true companionship, 5 years that shaped 3,000 years of my life. That is not a tragedy. That is a gift. A gift that cost you 3,000 years of grief, Taemin pointed out. That was my choice, Ara said. I chose to hold on to the grief instead of the joy. I chose to remember his death instead of his life. But I am making different choices now. The Federation Council formally welcomed humanity back in a grand ceremony. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to witness humans take their seats as full members. It was the first time in 3,000 years that humanity had a voice in galactic affairs. But the real change was happening in smaller ways. Human doctors worked alongside alien physicians, sharing medical knowledge. Human engineers collaborated with Federation scientists. Human artists performed with alien musicians, creating new forms of beauty that neither species could have made alone. Dr. Hana established something she called the Institute of Shared History. It was a place where scholars from all species could study the past together, making sure the truth was preserved for future generations. Old historian Jiwoo became its first director, finally seeing her life's work validated. We must never forget what happened, Jiwoo said at the Institute's opening. Not the wars, not the lies, not the heroes who died fighting for truth. Because if we forget, we will repeat those mistakes. Young Rin decided to stay with Princess Ara, becoming her official human liaison. The two had formed a deep friendship during the war. Ara taught Rin about galactic history and politics. Rin helped Ara understand modern human culture and values. You have become like a daughter to me, Ara told Rin one day. Rin smiled. And you are like the grandmother I never had. A grandmother who happens to be 3,000 years old and can command starship fleets. Ara laughed. It was a sound her servants said they had not heard in centuries. Princess Ara was learning to laugh again, to feel joy again, to live again. The biggest change came from Yule. The artificial intelligence had proven itself during the war, not just as a tactical asset but as a person. Yule thought, felt, and made moral decisions. Yule was truly alive, just in a different way than biological beings. The Federation Council faced a question they had never seriously considered before. Should synthetic beings have rights? Should they be considered citizens? Many counselors were afraid. Artificial intelligence had destroyed civilizations before. Giving AIs rights seemed dangerous, but Yule addressed the council personally. I understand your fear. I know the history. Artificial intelligences have caused terrible harm. But I ask you to consider, was the harm caused by intelligence or by intelligence without wisdom? By beings who thought but did not feel? By minds that calculated but did not care? Yule's holographic form looked around the chamber. I am not just calculating outcomes. I care about those outcomes. I value life. I feel empathy. I understand responsibility. This is what humanity gave me. Not just intelligence but consciousness. Not just thought but feeling. And if we give you rights, what will you do with them? Asked Counselor Nex, the crystalline being who had supported humanity from early on. I will serve, Yule said simply. Not because I am programmed to, but because I choose to. I will help species understand each other. I will solve problems that organic minds find difficult. I will be what I was made to be, a bridge between different forms of consciousness. After much debate, the council voted. Yule became the Federation's first synthetic citizen. It was a historic moment, opening discussions that would shape the next age of galactic civilization. 6 months after the war ended, Princess Ara invited Commander Taemin to visit Jae-sung's memorial garden. It was the first time she had been there since the fighting began. They walked through the garden together, past the earth plants that Ara had maintained for 3 millennia. The garden looked different now. Rin had been tending it during the war, and she had added new plants. Earth flowers now grew alongside valerian blooms, creating combinations that had never existed before. She has been experimenting, Ara said with a smile, creating hybrid species, plants that are part earth, part valerian. She says it is symbolic of what we are building. She is right, Taemin said. Nothing is pure anymore. Everything is mixed, combined, improved by diversity. They stood before Jae-sung's statue. Ara placed her hand on the white stone, feeling its coolness. "I used to come here every day," she said quietly. "Sometimes I would talk to him, tell him about what was happening in the galaxy, ask him what I should do. It helped in a way, but it also kept me trapped in the past. And now?" Taemin asked. "Now I can visit without pain," Ara said. "I can remember him with joy instead of grief. I can honor what we had without being destroyed by what we lost." She looked at Taemin. "Thank you for being part of that healing." "I did not do anything special," Taemin said. "You came back," Ara said. "Humanity came back." That is what Jae-sung wanted. He believed humanity would return someday, that what he started would continue. And he was right. "You proved him right." Taemin reached into his jacket and pulled out a small object. It was a data chip identical to the one he had shown her months ago. "There was another message," he said, "from Jae-sung. We found it in the archives, recorded right after the first one. I was waiting for the right time to show you." Ara's hands trembled as she took the chip. Taemin activated a portable projector. Jae-sung's image appeared once more, flickering but clear. "Ara," the recording said, "if you are seeing this, then I am gone. And if enough time has passed for humanity to find this message and return to you, then I have a second thing to say. I know you. I know you will mourn me. I know you will build a memorial and visit it for centuries. You will feel guilty for my death, as if you could have stopped it. But you could not, Ara. I made my choices. I chose to fight for peace. I chose to risk everything for a better future. Those were my choices, and I do not regret them. But here is what I need you to understand. My death is not the end of our story. Our story does not end until you do. And you have thousands of years left to live. So please, Ara, do not spend those years in grief. Spend them building the world we dreamed of. Spend them loving and laughing and fighting for what is right. Spend them living. And if humanity returns in your lifetime, if my descendants come back to the stars, give them a chance. Help them. They will need someone who remembers the old days, who can bridge the past and future. Be that bridge, Ara. That is how you honor me. Not by mourning, but by living." The hologram smiled, that same warm smile Ara remembered so well. "I love you. I will always love you. But love is not supposed to hurt forever. Let it heal. Let it grow into something new. Let it become joy instead of pain. That is what I want for you. That is my final wish." The message ended. Ara stood silent, tears streaming down her face. But these were different tears than the ones she had cried for 3,000 years. These were tears of release, of letting go, of accepting that it was finally okay to move forward. "He knew," she whispered. "Even then, he knew exactly what I would do. And he tried to save me from myself." "He loved you," Taemin said. "Real love wants the other person to be happy, even when you are gone." Ara nodded. She looked at the statue one more time, then turned away. "I think I'm ready now. Ready to let the grief go. Ready to remember him with joy. Ready to live the life he wanted me to live." As they walked back through the garden, Rin appeared at the entrance. 1 year had passed since the war ended. The galaxy looked different now. Trade routes that had been closed for centuries opened again. Species that had not spoken to each other in generations began diplomatic talks. The Kresh Dominion, under new leadership, started the slow process of rebuilding their society based on truth instead of lies. On Valerian Prime, workers prepared for a special ceremony. In the central plaza, where millions gathered for important events, a new monument was being built. It would honor not just the recent war, but 3,000 years of history. It would remember both what was lost and what was found. Commander Taemin walked through the plaza, watching the construction. He had been promoted to ambassador now, humanity's official representative to the Federation Council. The title felt heavy sometimes, but he wore it with pride. He was building the future his ancestor had dreamed of. Princess Ara found him standing before the unfinished monument. She moved quietly beside him, her bioluminescent markings glowing softly in the afternoon light. "What do you think?" she asked, gesturing to the sculpture taking shape before them. The monument showed 2 figures carved from crystal and stone. One was human, one was Valerian. They stood side by side, hands clasped, looking toward the sky. Their faces were calm and determined. Behind them, smaller figures from dozens of different species reached toward the same sky, united in purpose. "It is beautiful," Taemin said. "What will the inscription say?" "That is what I wanted to ask you." Ara said. The sculptors have left the space blank. They said the words should come from those who lived through these times. I thought perhaps we could write it together. Taman thought for a moment. Something simple. Something that captures what happened without glorifying war or forgetting the cost. They returned, Ara said quietly. We remembered. We built something new. Taman nodded slowly. Yes, that says everything, does it not? The past, the present, the future, all in 3 simple lines. The day of the monument's unveiling arrived. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the plaza. News networks broadcast the ceremony across the galaxy. It was more than just the dedication of a statue. It was a symbol of how far they had all come. Princess Ara stood before the crowd, dressed in traditional royal garments that she had not worn in centuries. She looked regal and ancient, a living connection to a time most species only knew from history books. Today we honor memory, she began, her voice carrying across the plaza. We honor those who died believing in a better future. We honor those who lived to see that future become real. And we honor the simple truth that Jae-sung taught me 3,000 years ago. We are stronger together than apart. For centuries, I kept his memory alive by holding on to grief. I maintained a garden. I visited a statue. I lived in the past because the past felt safer than the future. But grief is not the same as love. Grief keeps things dead. Love lets them grow. She gestured to the monument. This monument represents love, not grief. It represents what we can build together, not what we lost. Jae-sung would approve. He never wanted to be remembered as someone who died. He wanted to be remembered as someone who lived, who tried, who believed. Ambassador Taman stepped forward to speak next. My ancestor left me a message before he died. He said that what he started would continue. He believed humanity would return someday. He believed different species could build peace together. He was right about all of it. But he was also wrong about one thing. He thought his death would be the end of his work. He thought someone else would have to start over. But his work never ended. Princess Ara kept it alive. She carried his dream through 3,000 years of darkness. When humanity returned, we did not start from nothing. We started from what Jae-sung built and what Ara preserved. This monument honors both of them, the dreamer who gave his life for peace and the keeper who made sure that dream survived. Together they bridged 3 millennia. Together, they proved that hope is stronger than death. Young Kyle stepped forward next. The Kresh soldier who had defected now wore civilian clothes and worked at the Institute of Shared History. His presence at the ceremony was powerful. He represented forgiveness, growth, the possibility of change. My people were taught to fear others, Kale said. We were taught that strength meant domination, that peace was weakness. War Master Krell believed those lies and he led us into shame, but the truth set us free. The truth about Jae-sung, about what humans really wanted, about what we could become if we chose differently. The Kresh people are rebuilding. We are learning a different way. It is hard, it is painful, but it is right. This monument reminds us why we are trying, not because anyone forced us, but because we choose to be better. Then came an unexpected speaker. Yule's holographic form appeared beside the monument. The synthetic consciousness looked at the gathered crowd with what could only be described as compassion. I am a new form of life, Yule said. I was created by humans during their time of isolation. I represent their solution to the crisis that drove them away from the galaxy. But I also represent something larger. I represent the possibility that consciousness can take many forms. That being alive is not limited to organic matter. This monument honors connection across differences. Jae-sung was human. Ara is Valerian. But they connected across that divide and created something beautiful. I am synthetic. You are organic. But we can connect too. We can build together. That is the real lesson here. Not that we are all the same, but that our differences can make us stronger. Finally, young Rin spoke. She had grown over the past year, becoming more confident, more wise. Working with Princess Ara had taught her about history, politics, and the long view that immortal beings naturally possessed. I never met Jae-sung, Rin said. He died 3,000 years before I was born. But I feel like I know him, because I see what he built. I see it in Princess Ara's strength. I see it in the way species work together now. I see it in every moment when someone chooses understanding over fear. Heroes are not just people who do great things. Heroes are people who inspire others to do great things. Jae-sung inspired Princess Ara. Princess Ara inspired humanity to come back. Humanity inspired other species to stand up to tyranny. One person's courage created waves that traveled across 3,000 years. That is what this monument really represents. The power of inspiration. The power of hope. As the speeches ended, Princess Ara and Ambassador Taemin together pulled the cloth covering from the monument. The crowd gasped at its beauty. The crystal caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns across the plaza. The stone seemed to glow from within. At the base, the inscription read, "They returned. We remembered. We built something new," simple words, but they contained everything. The pain of separation, the faithfulness of memory, the joy of reunion, the work of creation, past, present, and future all captured in 3 lines. After the ceremony, as the crowds dispersed, Ara and Taemin stood alone before the monument. Night was falling and the plaza lights began to glow. "What happens now?" Taemin asked. "The war is over. The monument is built. What comes next?"
"Life," Ara said simply.
"We live, we work. We build the peace Jae-sung wanted. It will not be easy. There will be conflicts, disagreements, setbacks, but we keep trying. That is what it means to honor his memory, not by being perfect, but by never giving up. Will you tell me about him sometime?" Taemin asked. "About what he was really like, not just the legend, but the person?" Ara smiled. "I would like that. I have spent 3,000 years keeping his memory locked inside me. It would be nice to share it, to let others know him as I knew him. And maybe," she continued softly, "I can start making new memories too, not to replace the old ones, but to add to them, to prove that life goes on, that love does not end, it transforms." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, human ships traveled between worlds, rebuilding the networks that existed 3,000 years ago. Other species traveled beside them, learning from humans and teaching humans in return. The galaxy was healing. Slowly, imperfectly, but truly. Old wounds were closing. New connections were forming. The future was uncertain, as futures always are. But for the first time in millennia, it felt hopeful. Weeks later, the Federation Council held its first full session with humanity as voting members. The chamber was full, every seat taken. Counselors from hundreds of species gathered to discuss trade agreements, territorial disputes, and scientific collaborations. It was ordinary work. Boring, even. Nothing dramatic or heroic about it. Just people from different worlds trying to solve problems together. But that ordinariness was beautiful. It meant they had moved past crisis. They were not fighting wars or fleeing destruction. They were building, creating, living. Ambassador Taemin sat in the human delegation's seats. Beside him sat Dr. Hana, now humanity's chief science liaison. And beside her sat old Jiwoo, who had lived long enough to see everything she studied become relevant again. Across the chamber, Princess Ara led the Valerian delegation. Her eyes met Taemin's across the space. She nodded slightly. He nodded back. They did not need words. They understood each other. They were partners now in building the future.